You've been living inside a cage, disguised as a home. A life built on rules that were never yours, codes written by hands that wanted you obedient, predictable, easy to control. And for years, you played along. You swallowed their script. You wore the mask they gave you. You believed kindness was power, vulnerability was virtue, and obedience was the path to respect. But look around. Do you see respect? Do you see power? Or do you see men chewed up by the system, used up by relationships, discarded by jobs, laughed at by a world that rewards wolves and bleeds the sheep dry? The truth is brutal. The version of you that exists right now is not yours. It's a puppet. It's a patchwork of expectations, hand-me-down values, and emotional programming designed to keep you compliant. That's why you feel the pull. That's why you feel the resistance when I speak these words. Deep down, you know I'm not describing a stranger. I'm describing you. And this is where it ends. Today, the old blueprint burns. Listen carefully. You were told to be good, but their definition of good was to be weak. You were told to be liked, but being liked meant being forgettable, disposable, replaceable. You were told to be moral, but morality was always bent to benefit someone else. They handed you a map that led you in circles, and they laughed while you ran yourself into the ground. You want to know why your relationships collapsed? Why your friendships faded? Why opportunities slipped through your hands? It's not because you weren't good enough. It's because you were too predictable, too tame, too safe. You cannot be safe and powerful at the same time. And until you understand that, you will always be someone else's tool. So, here's the first law of reconstruction. Burn it all. I'm not here to give you motivation. I'm here to give you war. A war inside your own skull. And wars are not fought with kindness. Wars are fought with fire. Every habit you thought was discipline but was really self-sabotage, burn it. Every belief you clung to because it made you feel accepted, not strong, burn it. Every emotional reflex that made you react instead of calculate, burn it. Because you cannot build steel on sand. You cannot build dominance on compromise. You cannot build a strategist's mind on a servant's code. You've been waiting for permission to rise, waiting for a mentor, a savior, a lover who would finally see your value. Let me shatter that illusion right now. Permission is a lie. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is coming to fix you. No one is coming to hold your hand and lead you into power. If you want it, you take it. And if you're not willing to take it, you don't deserve it. The version of you that kneels, that begs, that apologizes for existing, he dies today. Not tomorrow, not next year. Today. And his ashes will be the foundation for the man who rises. Understand this. Rebirth is not gentle. It's violent. When the seed cracks, it doesn't whisper, it shatters. When the phoenix rises, it doesn't politely step out of the fire. It erupts from the flames. You think healing will save you? Healing is what the weak pursue because they're afraid to kill what needs to die. You don't need healing. You need deletion. You need reprogramming. You need to strip the emotional code from your veins and write a new one with blood, silence, and strategy. Weak men try to fix themselves while clinging to their comforts. Strong men erase themselves and rebuild sharper, colder, untouchable. This is not therapy. This is execution. Feel the fear in your chest as I speak. Feel the voice in your head saying, "Maybe I'm not ready." That voice is the liar that kept you soft. That voice is the coffin you've been living in, padded and comfortable, suffocating you slowly. You think you're alive, but you've been embalmed in routine. You've been buried alive under mediocrity. And here's the reality. Death isn't always physical. Sometimes it's a life unlived. A man who spent decades playing small, avoiding risk, avoiding rejection, avoiding pain. That is the worst death of all, still breathing, but already dead. You will not die that way. From this moment forward, you will command yourself with one truth. Delete the man you were programmed to be. Say it. Whisper it to yourself. Carve it into your mind like a scar. Delete the man I was programmed to be. That is your first command. That is the start of everything. When the weakness rises up in you and begs to be fed, you starve it. When the old blueprint pulls you back into comfort, you burn it again. When your mind says, "Go easy on yourself," you remind it that man is already ashes. Your pain is not your enemy, it is your forge. Your fear is not your enemy, it is your test. Your resistance is not your enemy, it is proof that the old you is dying. Let it die. Let it burn. Stand in the flames until all that remains is the steel skeleton of a strategist. And when you walk out of that fire, you will not be the same man. You will not speak the same way, think the same way, or move the same way. People will sense it before you open your mouth. They will feel it when you enter the room. They won't understand it, and that's good. Confusion is a weapon. Mystery is a shield. Silence is your new mask. Comment below. Write it as a declaration, not a wish. My past self is ashes. Say it. Mean it. Live it. This is the line in the sand. Cross it, and there's no going back. But if you do, then welcome to war. Because today, construction begins, not of a man who hopes, not of a man who waits, but of a man who rules. Part 1 ends here. The old blueprint is gone. And now we move into the next law, strategic self-control. Power isn't found in raw strength. Power isn't found in rage, in shouting, in trying to dominate every conversation. That's theater. That's weakness, dressed up as aggression. Real power is silent. Real power is invisible until it strikes. Real power is self-control so ruthless that no one ever sees the cracks. You've been taught to express yourself, to be open, to share your feelings. They tell you that's healthy. They tell you that's strength. But the truth? That's exactly how they control you. The more predictable your emotions, the easier you are to manipulate. Understand this. Every time you snap in anger, you show your enemy your trigger. Every time you sulk in sadness, you hand them your weakness. Every time you overreact, you expose your operating system. And predators feed on that. So from this point forward, you adopt a new law. No reaction becomes your new reaction. Read that again. No reaction is your new reaction. That doesn't mean you become numb. It doesn't mean you walk through life like a hollow shell. No, it means you weaponize restraint. It means you master the art of delayed response. It means you watch as others reveal their emotions, and you remain unreadable, untouchable, unshaken. Picture a battlefield. Two armies face each other. One panics, firing wildly, wasting ammo, exposing their position. The other waits. They hold their fire. They study. They let the enemy waste themselves, and then when the smoke clears, they strike with precision. That's self-control. That's strategy. And in your life, the battlefield is every room you enter, every interaction you have, every person who tests you. They will bait you. They will provoke you. They will try to pull the old you out, the impulsive, reactive, emotional man. But that man is ashes, and in his place stands a vault. A vault with no visible lock, no visible key, no visible entry. You will not be read. You will not be provoked. You will not bleed for free. Now, let's go deeper. You've been conditioned to see emotions as truths. If you feel anger, you assume it means something real. If you feel fear, you assume it defines who you are. But emotions are not truths. Emotions are tools. Anger? That's fuel. Use it to sharpen your focus. Use it to intensify your effort, but never let it sit in the driver's seat. Fear? That's information. It's your system telling you where the threat island. But fear doesn't define you. It guides you. Sadness? That's depth. Use it to reflect, to see what matters, but never drown in it. You are not your emotions. You are the handler of your emotions. They are your dogs. They bite when you command them. They stay silent when you don't. And here's the cold truth. The man who cannot control himself will never control anything external. Not money, not influence, not power. Think of a king. Think of a general. Think of a CEO. Do you think the men at the top of empires are impulsive? Do you think they're ruled by rage or lust or fear? No, they're composed. They calculate, they measure, and when they move, the world shifts. You want that kind of presence? Then you must become the master of restraint. Here's the rule. If it triggers you, it owns you. If it owns you, it beats you. And if it beats you, you are weak. That's not acceptable anymore. So here's your new practice. Train the pause. Every time you feel the urge to react, stop, breathe, delay. Give yourself 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, your enemy exposes themselves. They reveal what they wanted. They reveal their angle. And you stand untouched. Your silence will terrify people. Your composure will make them paranoid. They will begin to overthink, to second guess, to unravel themselves while you simply observe. And that's the hidden beauty of strategic self-control. It's not passivity. It's not doing nothing. It's letting the world destroy itself while you remain the one man who doesn't flinch. Let me give you a vision. Imagine walking into a room where people argue, complain, over-explain. Their energy is frantic. And you sit in silence. You watch. You don't give them what they want, your reaction. Within minutes, the entire room starts orbiting you. They lean into your silence. They wonder what you're thinking. They give you their power without even realizing it. That's the level you're aiming for. Presence that dominates without noise. And when the time comes to speak, when you decide to break that silence, every word will land like a hammer, because people will know you don't waste words, you don't waste energy, you don't waste motion. Self-control creates scarcity. Scarcity creates value. Value creates power. From today forward, you must see yourself as a vault, a weapon with a locked trigger. You will no longer be a man who bleeds for free. You will no longer let people see the chaos inside. You will no longer hand them the keys to your mind. Master your face. Master your tone. Master your silence. And most of all, master the moment before you speak. Because that pause, that hesitation, that's the space where power is born. So let's make this real. Comment below. Declare it. I am silence behind the storm. Say it like a command. Say it like a vow. Because that silence is your shield. That silence is your sword. That silence is the difference between being a man who reacts and a man who rules. And now that you've burned the old blueprint, and now that you've forged your first wall of self-control, it's time for the next law. The integration of the part you've been running from, the weapon hidden in your shadow. In part 3, we will drag your darkness into the light and teach you how to weaponize it. There's a part of you you've buried. You know it. I know it. The world told you to hide it because it scared them. The rage, the bitterness, the hunger for power, the cold calculation. That edge inside you that looked too dangerous, too primal, too raw. They told you to bury it. They told you to suppress it. They told you to heal it with meditation, with forgiveness, with softness. But here's the truth. That shadow you've locked away isn't your enemy. It's your weapon. You don't destroy darkness. You control it. You don't kill the predator in you. You leash it. You train it. And when the time comes, you unleash it with precision. Every betrayal you've suffered, every insult, every failure, every rejection that's energy, that's ammunition. But you've been wasting it by turning it inward, calling it trauma, calling it pain, calling it baggage. No, that's power you haven't claimed yet. You see, darkness is not the opposite of light. Darkness is the depth that makes light meaningful. You will never be complete until you integrate the side of yourself that wants domination, that wants revenge, that wants to rise above and crush what stands in your way. The weak man pretends he has no shadow. He acts like he's pure love, pure kindness, pure peace. And when the storm comes, he breaks. Because his softness was never strength, it was denial. The strong man, he sits with his demons. He looks them in the eyes and says, "You are mine. You obey me. You serve me." That man cannot be broken because he's already made peace with the fire inside. And that's your task now. Stop running from your shadow. Stop calling it bad. Stop trying to be good in a world that rewards predators. Your darkness isn't weakness. It's unused muscle. It's a weapon waiting to be forged. Think about it. When you were betrayed, what did you feel? Rage. When you were humiliated, what did you feel? The hunger to rise. When you were underestimated, what did you feel? The fire to prove them wrong. Those aren't flaws. Those are signals. That's the part of you begging to be unleashed. But not recklessly, not wildly, not in chaos. No controlled, sharpened, precise. Picture a blade. In its raw form, it's just steel. Useless, dangerous even. But when forged in fire, hammered and sharpened, it becomes unstoppable. That's your darkness. When you integrate it, people will feel it before you speak. You'll walk into a room, and suddenly the loudest ones grow quieter. The arrogant ones hesitate. They won't know why, but they'll sense something in you. A weight, an edge, a presence. Because darkness under control creates gravity. The man who has sat with his rage and made it work for him is untouchable. The man who has embraced his hunger, his coldness, his ruthless drive. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need permission. He is his own weapon, and the world feels it. So here's what you do. You stop apologizing for the parts of yourself that scared others. You stop pretending you don't want more. You stop hiding the fact that you're willing to dominate, to win, to conquer. That doesn't make you evil. That makes you powerful. Evil is when the darkness controls you. Power is when you control the darkness. And the difference is discipline, the leash, the command. So I want you to look in the mirror tonight. Not at the polite smile, not at the friendly mask. I want you to look deeper, into the cold eyes behind the mask, into the hunger behind the smile. That version of you isn't waiting to be loved. He's waiting to be given a mission. Give him one. Direct him. Aim him. Harness him. Because when you give your darkness a purpose, you become unstoppable. Think of the great men of history, the generals, the leaders, the conquerors. Do you think they built empires by being balanced and gentle? No. They integrated their fire. They turned rage into strategy, hunger into discipline, coldness into calculation. That's the formula. That's the law. And don't get this twisted. I'm not telling you to lose control. I'm not telling you to lash out. I'm telling you to become terrifying, because you don't need to lash out, because your silence carries weight, because your presence carries the shadow. People should look at you and feel, he's dangerous, but controlled. That is respect. That is power. That is the aura that shifts the atmosphere of every room you enter. So tonight, you stop running from your shadow. You pull it into your chest. You command it. You master it. And from now on, you walk with it as part of you. Comment below. Declare it. My darkness obeys me. Say it like a king giving an order. Say it like a general speaking to his army. Because that's what your shadow is. An army waiting for command. Weak men fear their edge. Strong men wield it. And you are about to wield yours. Now that you've burned the old blueprint, now that you've built self-control, now that you've weaponized your shadow, it's time for the next law, The cold eye of observation. Because power isn't just built on silence and darkness, it's built on seeing what others cannot see. Power doesn't always belong to the loudest. In fact, most of the time, the loudest man in the room is the weakest. He spills everything he has, desperate to be noticed. But the man who holds true power, he doesn't rush, he doesn't reveal, he observes. The eye that sees without being seen, that's the true weapon. Let me break this down. When you walk into a room, most people are slaves to impulse. They talk too much, they laugh too loud, they posture, they show off, they want to be seen. But the man who observes, who listens, who studies, he collects information while giving nothing away. That's the cold eye of observation. It's the discipline of silence. It's the art of watching while others expose themselves. Because every word people speak, every gesture they make, every mistake they reveal, that's leverage. And the one who listens gathers it all. This is how you turn invisible power into visible dominance. The impulsive speak, the observer remembers. The arrogant show their weakness, the observer notes it. The careless reveal their strategy. The observer prepares his counter. Observation is free. It costs you nothing. But the value it brings? Infinite. Think about predators in the wild. The lion doesn't roar before it attacks. It crouches. It studies. It waits. It watches. And then it strikes at the perfect moment. That's how you must move in life. Watch first. Strike later. And here's the truth. The one who observes longer always wins, because everyone eventually shows their hand. Everyone reveals their desires, their fears, their soft spots. Most people can't help it. They crave attention too much. You must crave control instead. Imagine this. You're in a negotiation. One man talks endlessly, listing his demands, explaining his needs, bragging about his resources. He thinks he's winning. But the man who sits quietly, listening, watching, he's taking mental notes. And when the time comes, he speaks once, cuts through all the noise, and everyone feels his words land with weight. That is presence. That is power. So how do you train the cold eye of observation? First, discipline your tongue. Learn to say less than you think. If silence feels uncomfortable, good. That's your training ground. The weak man tries to fill silence. The strong man makes silence his throne. Second, study faces. People leak truth in micro-expressions, in their tone, in the way they shift when they lie, in the hesitation before a yes, in the twitch before a no. Train your eye to notice the things most people overlook. Third, detach from emotion in the moment. Observation requires coldness. If you get triggered, if you react, you lose your vantage point. Stay calm, stay neutral, stay unreadable. Let them burn themselves out while you watch from the shadows. This is why the masters of power always seemed untouchable. They weren't reacting. They were studying. Napoleon, Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, they all understood this law. Information is power, and silence is the way you gather it. Now, listen carefully. The observer always has the advantage because knowledge tilts the game. When you know what others want, when you see what they fear, when you sense what they hide, you control the board without even moving your piece. And here's the paradox. The less you speak, the more powerful your words become. Why? Because silence makes people lean in. Silence makes them wonder what you're thinking. Silence creates pressure. And when you finally break it, your words hit with the force of a hammer. Most men waste their power in noise. You will conserve yours in silence. Picture this in your life. You enter a room. You don't need to dominate the space with volume. You simply stand, calm, grounded, still. You watch, you listen, you notice. And everyone else, subconsciously, starts adjusting themselves. They can't explain it, but they feel it. He sees me. That's magnetic. That's intimidating. That's real power. The cold eye doesn't blink. It doesn't rush. It doesn't beg, it simply waits. And in waiting, it wins. So from this moment forward, stop craving to be heard. Start training yourself to see. Because the man who sees without being seen is the most dangerous man alive. Remember this: loud men are fragile, silent men are feared. Now that you've learned the discipline of silence and the cold eye of observation, it's time for the next step: strategic masks and ruthless boundaries. Because power isn't just about what you see, it's about what others are allowed to see in you. Every man makes the same mistake. He shows too much. He gives away his soul like it's free. He wears his heart on his sleeve, his intentions on his face, and then wonders why people manipulate him. But here's the law: powerful men are unreadable. You do not walk through life naked, letting the world see your every thought, every wound, every desire. No. You wear masks, strategic masks. Masks are not lies. Masks are armor. Masks are tools. Masks are signals you control. Think of it this way: the world will judge you no matter what. They will project, they will assume, they will invent stories about you. So why not control the story? Why not choose the version of yourself they get to see? When you show everything, you give away leverage. When you show nothing, you create mystery. And mystery is power. But here's the nuance. Masks aren't fake. Masks are selected truths. You choose which side of you fits the moment. You decide whether they meet the calm strategist, the charming diplomat, the ruthless commander, or the silent observer. This isn't about deception. This is about control. The world doesn't deserve access to your raw essence. Only a few earn that. Everyone else, they get the mask you decide. Now let's talk about boundaries. Without boundaries, you are a door left wide open. Anyone can walk in, take what they want, leave you drained, and vanish. That is how weak men live. Always available, always accessible, always exploitable. Strong men are fortresses, not walls of weakness, but boundaries of power. A fortress has gates, controlled entry, guarded doors, rules for access, and if someone violates those rules, they are cut off ruthlessly, without apology. That's how you must operate. Because here's the truth: people will always test your limits. They will always push. They will always take more than they give if you let them. That's human nature. Your job is to make the rules clear and unshakable. This far, no further. This much, no more. And when someone violates it, you don't negotiate. You don't explain. You don't beg. You enforce. Coldly, calmly, absolutely. That's what makes boundaries real. Not words, but enforcement. Look at your life right now. How many times have you let people overstep? How many times have you tolerated disrespect, manipulation, laziness, betrayal because you didn't want to be harsh? And what did that earn you? Nothing but weakness in their eyes. You see, people don't respect men who say yes to everything. They respect men who are selective, scarce, controlled. That's why boundaries aren't cruelty, they're respect. Respect for yourself, and by extension, respect from others. Pair this with your masks, and you become untouchable. Because here's what happens. People can't figure you out. They can't read you. They can't push past your limits. They can't drain you. Instead, they adjust to you. They respect the mask, they respect the boundary, and deep down, they feel your control. And that's the point control. Without masks, you're exposed. Without boundaries, you're exploited. With both, you are untouchable. So here's the exercise. Starting today, stop oversharing. If someone doesn't need to know, they don't. If they ask a question you don't want to answer, smile, redirect, or give a mask. Mystery is leverage. Build fortress rules. Decide your non-negotiables. Respect, loyalty, energy. Anyone who crosses those lines is cut off. Be ruthless in enforcement. Don't explain. Don't justify. Boundaries don't need debate. They need action. Remember this: the world only values what it cannot fully have. Be the man who is scarce, unreadable, and disciplined with access. Because when you control your masks, when you enforce your boundaries, you stop being a pawn on someone else's board. You become the board itself. And that's when alliances, not friendships, but alliances begin to form around you. Which brings us to the next law. Alliances, not friendships. Because power is not built in isolation, but it's not built on shallow connections either. It's built on strategic ties that serve your mission. Here is the final law, the one that separates men who stay small from men who build empires. Weak men chase friendship. Strong men build alliances. Let me explain. Friendship is emotional. It's based on feelings, comfort, shared laughs, mutual sympathy. And while there's nothing wrong with it, friendship is fragile. It shifts with mood, with time, with betrayal, with disappointment. One wrong word, one act of jealousy, one moment of weakness, and it crumbles. Alliances are different. Alliances are built on purpose, on strategy, on mutual benefit. An alliance is not about liking each other. It's about alignment of mission. Two wolves hunting in the same direction, not because they're best friends, but because the hunt demands it. That is stronger. That is enduring. That is unshakable. History is written by men who built alliances, not by men who collected friends. Kings had allies. Generals had loyal commanders. Empires rose not because everyone liked each other, but because everyone understood the value of shared power. And here's the brutal truth. Friends may abandon you, but allies will stand, so long as the mission benefits both. That's not weakness. That's clarity. That's reliability. So, how do you build alliances? First, you must embody value. Nobody allies with a man who brings nothing to the table. You need skill. You need strength. You need resources, knowledge, or presence that others find undeniable. When you become a fortress, when you master silence, when you wield your shadow, when you enforce boundaries, people will seek you out. They'll recognize you as an asset. Second, you must discern motives. Not every handshake is an alliance. Some are traps, some are leeches, some are masks of their own. This is why the cold eye of observation is vital. You must see what they really want. If their goals align with yours, there's ground for alliance. If not, cut it before it drains you. Third, you must define terms. An alliance without clarity is just wishful thinking. What do they gain? What do you gain? What is the shared mission? What are the rules? Power thrives on structure. Fourth, you must maintain distance. An alliance is not fusion. You don't lose yourself in it. You don't hand over your power. You stay separate, strong, sovereign, standing shoulder to shoulder, not chained together. This is the difference between the kingmaker and the pawn. The pawn joins blindly, hoping for protection. The kingmaker allies strategically, ensuring strength is multiplied, not diluted. And here's the secret. Alliances don't need to last forever. They last as long as they serve the mission. When the mission ends, the alliance can dissolve without betrayal. This is why alliances are stronger than friendships. They don't demand endless emotional maintenance. They demand clarity and execution. Now, look at your life. How many friends do you have who drain you, distract you, demand your time without purpose? How many friends crumble when you rise higher, when you stop playing small, when you become serious about power? Most so-called friends don't want you powerful. They want you comfortable, relatable, the same as them. But an ally wants you strong, because your strength fuels their strength. That's the network you need to build. A circle of wolves, a war room of strategists, a chain of men and women who see power the way you do, not as something to fear, but as something to master. So here's your final shift. Stop chasing friendship. Start scanning for allies. Build your circle, not on comfort, but on mission. And when you find those who align, stand with them like iron. Because no man rises alone, but no man rises with weak ties either. Only strategic alliances build empires. And if you've followed every law we've laid down, burn the old blueprint. Master silence. Weaponize your darkness. Train the cold eye of observation. Control your masks and enforce ruthless boundaries. Build alliances, not friendships. Then you are no longer the same man who pressed play on this video an hour ago. You are rebuilt. You are forged. You are dangerous. Not loud, but silent. Not desperate, but disciplined. Not scattered, but sovereign. From here forward, you are no longer chasing approval. You are no longer handing out your power. You are no longer soft. You are fortress. You are fire. You are strategy. You are shadow. And soon, they will all feel it. Because the man who masters himself masters the world.